What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, the Halloween Spooky Special. That's right, we're talking about all Halloween games this week, and we've got you covered from the latest and greatest to what you should be playing, getting yourself scared, or maybe just sitting back and enjoying something a little bit more casual. Not all of us like that spooky stuff, mostly talking about me. But if you do, stick around. We've got a whole episode dedicated to Halloween.
When it comes to Halloween and video games, there's something that I really have to highlight. This is what I think of every time, and that's Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th is exactly what it sounds like. It's an online game based off of the cinematic universe where players are playing against other players in small round matches, usually with 8 or 9 players. Most of them being kind of survivors, hopefully, and the other one being Jason. And stepping into those shoes is quite a ride. The players designated as survivors, they have a lot of running and hiding to do. They have a few different objectives that they can complete in order to bring another character into play, Tommy Jarvis. That's a funny, interesting movie little tidbit there. They also can call the police to have them come and escort them to safety. They can assemble gasoline and pieces of a boat together to escape via the water, or just get into a vehicle, a car, find the keys, the gas, the battery, and start it up to get out of there. As Jason, your job is a little simpler. You just have to find every one of these players and end them prematurely before they can escape. This game does have a bit of stats involved and some good play work, actually. If you're into the game for any length of time, you notice that you can pick different characters that have slightly different abilities, different stats when it comes to combat versus running away, and in that way there's kind of a higher skill ceiling, so to speak, of what kind of players you can find in there. It might have a little bit of depth, but it's not always serious. It really depends on the players in the game that kind of role play their part or don't, and it can be something straight out of the movie or something really wacky. This game, when it came out, was marred with issue. The matchmaking system was completely broken, and a lot of players had to use custom matches to host and find each other to start these games. But the players that did stay on were rewarded with some interesting updates along the way, and a lot of cosmetics to go along with their character customization. It was fairly well supported, but unfortunately fell into some legal issues when it comes to reserving the rights for Friday the 13th, and they are not following up with any more DLC. When I think of Halloween games, that's the one I always fall back to. Friday the 13th is certainly some kind of horror movie, and depending on your taste, if you don't mind the gore, it could be a lot of good fun.
Alright, so for this week's Halloween special, I'm going to be giving to you a few of my personal game relics. And starting things off, it's actually going to be a little different because this game was announced. Dead Space. Yes, this summer we were given a trailer showing the rejuvenation of one of my beloved franchises, Dead Space. I was a little bit shocked by this because, this is something we've wanted for a long time, whether it be a sequel or I guess a reimagination. You can play this game on Xbox One with backwards compatibility and it still holds up no problem. I played it just a few years ago and it still creeped the heck out of me, guys. But moving into the next game relic, Nightmare Creatures. I bet you most of you have not heard of this game, but back on those N64 days, this is a game that we had rented as a family a few times, well, me and my brothers, And oh, I just remember sitting on the couch, like not being able to play it because it was way too advanced for me at such a young age, but just watching it in dismay and fear as you just progress through this survival horror game yet again with all these insane nightmarish creatures. But alright, those are just a couple of my choices. I cannot wait for Dead Space Remaster. It's going to be incredible. Like I said, if you haven't already, play it. Play it now. You can play it on Xbox One with backwards compatibility. It's on Game Pass. And well, I'll leave it to you guys with that.
Halloween may be upon us, but we all know it's all filled with horror and gore and more. But sometimes we just want something a little bit more lighthearted. Maybe you're not into that spooky stuff like me. In that case, I've got 4 games for you to check out that are a little bit more lighthearted when it comes to Halloween. First up is none other than Mario's brother, Luigi's Mansion 3. That's right, we're jumping over with Luigi, who's been invited to the towering Last Resort Hotel. But when Mario and his friends go missing, our green-colored friend here is off to conquer fears and to help save his friends. With our new tech with the Poltergeist G00 and the help of our latest friend Gooigi, we're able to solve puzzles in new ways. Catching ghosts and solving puzzles to rescue Mario and all of his friends. We're there in the Last Resort, which has the towering themes throughout each floor. Everything is a little bit different and has its own decor. As a bonus, Luigi's Mansion 3 also features co-op. It's nice to have that couch co-op and a little bit of help throughout your challenges. Up next is a classic. We're talking about Costume Quest 1 and 2. How can you not talk about these games when it comes to the world of Halloween? Double Fine is back, and they've created some of the most whimsical and well-written, humored games we've ever experienced. A classic makes its return with our next title. I'm talking about Medieval. That's right, remastered for the PlayStation 4. You can also get it, of course, on the PlayStation 5. Here's your chance to play as Sir Daniel if you haven't in the past, and check out the new challenges ahead. New mechanics, gameplay, controls, and so forth. You're in for a great time, but a challenging one. If those aren't your style, maybe you're more looking for that zombie apocalypse survival game. We have just the thing for you. Check it out. Scott and I are talking about Dismantle. All right, Scott, we're off to another zombie apocalypse to Dismantle. Scott, you and I are back again on PC for an early look at an early access game called Dismantle. We take a look at another zombie apocalypse filled world, and the way the game starts is pretty sounding like a robotic voice, which was probably the worst part about the game is actually the intro. You get this little dialogue of the game, but then from there it opens up and allows you to go out and explore. You are what seems to be the last person around, and everything else is turned into zombies, and you're out to scavenge, look for resources, manage stuff, upgrade things. And that is essentially it for the game, but it's got this loop and this upgrade system that keeps me coming back. Scott, what about you?
Yeah, this is an interesting title for sure. It has a presentation top down, kind of like an action beat 'em up, and the combat plays out that way. But the main thing about this game is the dismantling you do of the environments around you, getting all these resources together, scrap wood, scrap fabric, and little metal pieces and stuff like that, because it's all about feeding a really large crafting system. So you return to these campfires that are kind of your safe place, and you can rest, regenerate your health, and then that gives you the opportunity to craft new items or upgrade your current items and make them even stronger. That loop that you mentioned is a lot of running through these very dangerous buildings, collecting everything you can, and then running back to the fireplace. That sounds pretty simple,
Yeah.
but it gets a little more complicated than that as you progress through the very large map, and you're presented with different objectives on top of this, like assembling all these towers and
Yep.
activating them so that they can, open new areas to you or just reveal the map.
I'm about the 5 hour mark at the early access look of the game, and I'm at the point now where when I'm harvesting stuff now too, right? So I'm planting like corn, and then you're rewarded for doing these tasks and then harvesting the corn, and then that opens up your skill tree and things you can upgrade, and that's where the loop kind of really sets in of what do you want to go towards next for upgrading your gear. And some of that gear is pretty high tier, so you're going to be there for a grind, right? And I've had a lot of fun progressing through these things and experiencing some of the new monsters that are out in the world. There is your basic monster, that your zombie that you're going to run into all the time, but then as you explore, you go out and you expand the map itself, and if you go back to your fire pit, then that resets the level essentially. But if you get to a certain toolkit, then you're able to actually reset some of these towers, and that tower locks that area down. So when you kill some of these zombies, they don't respawn. And I'm kind of looking to get to that point so I can just go out and explore and not worry about dying. And the one thing I wish I could do, Scott, is rework on the knives. You get throwing knives, you only get so many, but they reset when you go back to the fire pit. When you rest and then you recharge, everything comes back, including your knives. What I want to be able to do is craft new knives while I'm out in the world. My health is good, but I'm out of knives. But I have the resources, so let me craft that thing. I think that's really one of the parts that I'm missing within the game.
Yeah, that's an interesting problem because then you want to replenish the knives, but is it worth resetting the entire area and bringing all these zombies back? That's a hard choice to make, especially in some of these areas where you get past a lot of kind of normal zombies, and then you have to fight these unique, either bigger zombies or skin flayed ones that are much better at combat, and you're gonna want those knives. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that I'm building up my repertoire of, utility and items that I'm gonna need. I've got a flashlight, so when it goes at nighttime, I'm able to kind of explore a little bit more. So there's a lot into this early access look of the game, and it really feels polished. I haven't had too many issues. I've had one where the zombies will run at you, and all they do is like continually loop as a run mechanic and stop. They don't actually swipe at me. So I'm able just to kind of kill them relatively easy, but it doesn't happen all the time. It's just kind of sporadic. But besides that, and the fact that the game opens up with the voiceover, very short dialogue, and he was just a robotic sound, that's the only two issues I've really had. Everything else, I've been just loving and enjoying the game.
Yeah, and it is worth mentioning that we are just at the beginning of this roadmap for this game too. So there is a lot of updates, and the next update, in fact, they are responding to feedback given by the players that have seen the early access. So we could expect to see some of those things change or maybe open up in a more user-friendly way.
Nice.
Drew, one of the things I've noticed about this game and specifically the skill tree is that it can become quite specialized. There is kind of a direction you can work towards to be a specialized kind of character. And it makes me wonder if they're ever going to include some sort of a multiplayer system to this, because specifically I could put all my points into building and farming and cultivating.
Yeah.
And that would be complemented really well by somebody who is more combat oriented. And that could work out really well, especially with this cleansing of the map kind of later on. And I think that would lead to a much longer term kind of engagement.
No, absolutely, Scott. I think that raises a good point. I think the only thing really missing from the game moving forward is the sense of co-op, right? There's such a large scale map here to traverse, and to have someone, a friend, to join you and kind of go out and explore would just add to that experience. we've spent a lot of time in Dismantle, and we've had a lot of fun. And moving forward, I don't think we're going to be slowing down anytime soon. I've had a great time. I'm definitely going to recommend the title. This is early access, like we said, so there's still a long roadmap ahead of the game. But for jumping in early, man, I've had a blast and definitely have to recommend this one. How about you?
Yes, very well put there, because there's absolutely nothing that screams alpha about this game that we've experienced. It's very polished, it's fun to play, and it has a lot of sense of progression. I'm really excited to see what kind of updates come down the line, and the gameplay to me is only going to get better and better and more interesting the more complicated they add to this game. So I have to recommend this one as well. This is a fun, interesting game.
No, absolutely.
Dismantle is a great lone survival zombie exploration game. Impressive map size and detail, with many updates still to come. We definitely have to recommend this title.
Now, if you're a fan of story-based decision-making games, then I've got a Halloween treat for you, as I recommend Until Dawn by Supermassive Games on the PS4 or free on the PS5 if you use the PS Plus collection. Now, what I love about Until Dawn is that there's everything in one game that you could ever want. It plays like an R-rated third-person interactive supernatural horror and also a suspense thriller movie. The cutscenes, the voiceover and the background audio really set the scene, where there is a prologue and chapters where you get to play as different characters with a different perspective. It starts you off straight into the action, where a group of friends are having a party in a lodge at Blackwood Mountain, where a prank goes horribly wrong and the host of the party, Hannah, gets upset and runs off into the snowy woods. And this is where you start, as being upset by what's happened, you play her sister Beth that runs after her into the woods to try and catch her.
Joke. It was just a prank, Han. What did you do?
We were just messing around, Beth. It wasn't serious.
You jerks! Hannah! Hannah!
So, should we go after her?
You know, I kind of think you're the last person she wants to see right now, Mike.
Straight off, you're running after her, where well-placed timing of the control button will either make her jump over an obstacle or trip. And then you come across if you decide whether you have to go left to follow the footprints or right to follow the noise. Then after catching up with her, you come to the end of a cliff and notice something to make you both walk backwards until Hannah slips off the edge. And you are hanging onto your sister's hands with the stranger approaching to offer a hand. So do you drop your sister to grab the strangers, or both drop? This is the edge of your seat moment right there, and that's just a prologue.
It took place on Mount Washington. Annie Klein, who was in charge of the investigation.
Thanks for having me, Marty.
Listeners, an update on Hannah and Beth Washington, the twins who are still missing.
1 year ago tonight, the Washington girls left the safety of their parents' lodge and headed out into a snowstorm.
Foul play.
Then this is where the game really starts. On the 1 year anniversary of the missing sisters, their brother Joss invites you all back to the lodge on Blackwood Mountain, where you all have to use a cable cart to get to the lodge. And this is your first interaction with the other characters, as you play each of them with the choices and decisions made by you.
Just like going to the prom.
Here we go.
Until Dawn uses the butterfly effect, like done in the amazing game Detroit Becomes Human, where every action and decision made by you will have an outcome on the end of the game. And there's up to 256 different endings, depending what choices and decisions you make from the 8 characters that you play. Throughout the game, as you move around certain areas, collecting clues and objects, you come across totems that are hints that are split into 5 categories. There is a guidance totem that will show you an event that you really want to get because it's good. There's also a fortune totem, a glint of a good event in the future that could help making a decision. You can find a danger totem, what to expect soon relating to making a decision or participating in an action sequence. There's also the death totem that shows you a vision of a possible death of a character that finds it. And finally there's the lost totem that shows you which friend dies in what circumstances, different to death as it doesn't show the future of the character that finds it. You will notice some familiar faces and voices through the game, such as Rami Malek, Hayden Panettiere, Brett Dalton, Peter Stormare, and that's just to name a few. I found Until Dawn's story very compelling, with the intense audio that really captures the isolation of being in a lodge stuck on a snowy mountain. There's also some cool jump moments as well that really keep you on the edge of the seats. And the characters are very well portrayed to make you feel immersed in the game at all times. Until Dawn is a definite more than one playthrough, as there are multiple outcomes. Another cool feature that's added to the game is when you start the next chapter, they give you the previous up to that point on the outcome of the choices, or if you hit that right button in time. As I said, this game has it all, and if it gets a bit too scary for you, they thought of everything. They've even added an analyst to check you out at the end of each chapter, just to see how you're getting on. But that might not be always a good thing.
I told you you can't change what happened last year. You can only affect the future. Accept it and move on. So, you have committed to commence with this game. This is significant, and I want to help you see it through. Sometimes these things can be a little scary, even terrifying, but I'm here to make sure that no matter how upsetting things may get, you will always find a way to work through it.
Alright, this week I'm revisiting Hunt Showdown. Here's why. So, back in May 2019, Scott and I actually checked out this game, and of course, we did have a good time. But over the last couple of years, this Battle Royale has evolved into something that I think almost everybody that is into this style of game should check out. So, this Battle Royale is up to 12 people in a match, and up to teams of 3. So, with you and your team, if you're going that route, need to track down a monster. So unlike other battle royales, it's you against the elements as well as other hunters. So you got hellhounds and zombies and all sorts of abominations that are out there to kill you while you're tracking down this monster. And what's really great are these monsters, man. They are really tough, some of them. There are a few tricks that you can use to kill them, but still, all in all, they're very unique and tough to kill. If you and your team actually manage to track down the monster and kill it, you actually then have to banish it, which basically notifies the entire map where you are, and it takes about 3 minutes to do so. And once that 3 minutes is up, you grab the bounty and then have to leave the map in one of the exit areas. So sometimes if it's in your favor, you'll be really lucky and the exit will be right next to it. And then other times, it's on the other side of the map. And what's also unique is these maps often will either have 2 bounties or will have just 1. So it kind of spices things up. It's either, half the map is tracking down one monster and the other half is tracking another, or it's everyone meeting together in a glorious, chaotic mess. So again, what makes this experience incredibly unique is the time period. It's the late 1800s, early 1900s. So you have the likes of the Springfield 1866s, so lots of single shot rounds, or kind of like hunting rifles where you got the lever action and the bolt action, and it takes a while to reload. And this game is very, very heavily dependent on the audio, and I cannot stress to you guys how much the audio is better than anything I've ever played. They use 3D audio, and unlike any other game, I'm talking about Rainbow Six Siege, any of the Call of Duties, all of them are put to shame compared to the audio in this. In this game, you can tell if someone shoots 100 or 200 meters away with the Romero 77 shotgun, or if someone's walking 20 yards and then steps on a twig, you can tell exactly where they are. It's incredible. I can't explain it to you in words. You really just need to put on a headset and experience this game because it's unlike anything else. And what makes this experience even more unique is at the start of each round, you need to load out a hunter. There are a wide variety of weapons. Again, what kind of like I touched up on earlier, they are really cool. You got like the Springfield 1866 or like the Sparks LR, which are like breach round rifles. Or then you have the likes of Moz and the Gent, where it's this crazy semi-auto rifle that you can shoot 15 rounds in like 4 seconds. Which again, I know it sounds kind of overpowered, but ultimately in this game you can get killed in one shot, no problem. A headshot is a headshot, and if you can shoot them in the chest with any rifle, it pretty much is gonna almost take them down. So that all being said, there is a high risk, high reward while you're loading out your characters. There's bombs and health packs and knives, all sorts of trip mines and the likes that you can load out your character with, but it costs hunt dollars. And if you go in and then just die right away, you lose everything. There's no getting any of it back. So that's again that battle royale kind of style where you lose everything if you don't succeed. But what's nice is you're not forced to spend any hunt dollars at all. Every match you can get a free hunter, and then if you die with that hunter, the next match they give you another free hunter. It's a nice balance because you will die over and over again at times. This game is incredibly hard and the community is slightly relentless. Like, they will kill you. I haven't had any sort of hate, which is wonderful. Like, I never get any hate messages or anything like that. Not once in my entirety of playing this game, which really leads me to believe that this is more of a mature-based audience that plays this game. And kids aren't really going to like it. It is a tough game that, I hope that you all check out.
Let's keep this Halloween content rolling, guys. I wanted to point out some of the top cosmetic skins that you can purchase or earn in-game that are Halloween themed. Every year for Halloween, some of the top battle royales, top squad-based shooters, first-person shooters, their developers will have a Halloween event. And in these events, there'll maybe be skins that you can unlock, whether they're for your gun or skins for your characters. And essentially, they just always do such a good job. And I thought, you know what, some of these needed to be highlighted. So I picked out some of my favorites in no particular order. Let's get right to them. Alright, the first one we're going to check out was released on the Apex Legends Fight or Fright event, and this is the Caustic skin Last Laugh. This is kind of an It clown style skin. This one looked really cool. I thought they did a good job. There's also a dark humor bundle that there was 2 variations of the skin that you could pick out, and honestly this one just kind of stood out to me. I thought it looked really good. Caustic's a cool character. The way he talks is very menacing, so to have that voiceover with that skin, I mean, let me tell you, it's terrifying to watch that thing in game coming at you, let alone, you know, being able to play as that. So I thought this one was a really cool one and one I wanted to highlight because Apex Legends did this one right.
I control death. It does not control me.
Alright, we're jumping into the world of Overwatch. You know what? They have so many Halloween skins. This was a really tough one to kind of narrow down, but I'm going to jump into Junkenstein, or the return of Junkenstein, and we're going to look at Junkenstein's Monster. This is a skin for Roadhog that mimics Frankenstein, and they did such a good job here. I mean, you got to take a look at this thing. It looks absolutely amazing. There's so many, you know, just Frankenstein details that they had on here, and you still get that Roadhog pig nose and the mask. They did just a fantastic job, and I just, you know, this one to me, Roadhog's a character I love to play, so I had to have this one on the list. Alright, we're throwing it back to 2017 here. We're going way back to OG Fortnite. And one of the first Fortnitemares events, we actually got the Skull Trooper skin. This one is synonymous. You see it everywhere. You still see it everywhere in the Fortnite world. So many people bought this skin. It was unbelievable. But you know what? It is just such a classic look. I mean, who didn't want to dress up as a skeleton at some point in their lives? I thought this one was just so well done. And the fact that it's just so popular, I couldn't leave it off this list. Last but definitely not least, and probably the creepiest one on this list, from Call of Duty Warzone, Haunting of Verdansk, we're looking at the Jigsaw Killer skin. When they released this skin into the game, there was so many people using it, it was terrifying. I mean, the character looks exactly like the character from the movies. They did such a good job at kind of creating this one. There's a few different variations as well, and when you throw a gun in this thing's hands, terrifying. You know what, that rounds out the list, but let me tell you, there's so many good games out there that do so many great things on Halloween. There's so many kind of cosmetics that you can jump into, pick up, earn, buy. There's, you know, the list goes on. I had to narrow it down to a few of my favorites. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but let me tell you, these Halloween skins come rolling out every year, so make sure you have your eye out for them.
Each year sees a new event come in some of these games, and of course they're always Halloween themed when it comes around this season. And we've got some of the biggest ones from the past. We were talking about one of my favorite games of all time, Assassin's Creed Origins. Their event they hosted was the Curse of the Pharaohs. That's right, Bayek traveled to new locations, fought off mystical beasts, and even dead pharaohs. What an event that was. I think one of the biggest ones that come to mind though is Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. That's right, this game took off by storm, and of course when it launched the Undead Nightmare experience, they put John Marston into a whole new campaign looking to find a cure for the infectious undead plague that spread across the entire frontier. Leave it to Rockstar to come up with something like this.
You ate my daddy!
There are so many events. What are your favorites? We've seen everything from Call of Duty to Apex to even Animal Crossing itself. Yeah, Animal Crossing New Horizons, the fall update. We saw a Halloween special. It goes everywhere. It's just one of those events that you always want to jump in, get your rewards, and then get out. We even saw a crossover with Dying Light and Left 4 Dead. Let us know over on Twitter, the official ITG, what event are you playing this year? So Nate explained why you should jump back into Hunt Showdown, but just how do you get started? Well, guess who's back? Nate, as he gives you some tips to get started in the latest Hunt Showdown.
This is going to be a little bit of a starter's guide to kind of help you more so with the PvE side of things. So starting things off, your loadout. That's a pretty important thing to have figured out. And here's a few tools that you should always bring with you. Firstly, as a starter, use the electric lamp. If you extract twice with the bounty, you then unlock fuses, which are really handy for taking out Hive or any sort of those pesky creatures that I'll touch up on later. Next, you need to bring a melee weapon. Now I'd suggest bringing both knuckle braces and a knife, but if you can't, just make sure to bring at least a knife. There are a lot of enemies that you need to engage with close combat, and if you don't have a melee weapon, the butt end of your weapon is just not enough. Next, this is kind of a given, but a first aid kit. You absolutely need to bring this every time. It is 3 times that you get to heal while outside of combat or in combat, so this comes in real handy. And leading up to that is the weak vitality shot. This is cheap and is a really quick way to get healing while you're in the midst of a really heat engagement. Now the next 2 I'm going to mention are kind of a bit of a bonus. First one being, bring some sort of explosive. They are very handy for flushing out hunters or killing any sort of enemies when you're in a bit of a tight situation. Always or just try to bring some sort of explosive. And the next one being the weak antidote shot. Now you don't unlock this until around 48 when you get the poison bomb. You then need to use the poison bomb 5 times to get the weak antidote shot. But you're wondering what's so good about this weak antidote shot? Well, it gives you 30 minutes of freedom of poison. That's right, poison is a real pain in this game, and just a cheap weak antidote shot gives you a 30-minute timer to not have to worry about it. Alright, so now that you're kitted up, let's get into the PvE, because this game is quite intimidating as a newcomer. There are all sorts of creatures that are trying to kill you the entire time. So first and foremost, let's start with the Hellhounds. These things avoid at all cost. They are unpredictable in their attacks. They sometimes come in 1 to 2 to like 6 or 7 I've seen at once. Just try to avoid these things at all costs, and if you do engage, use a melee weapon. You kind of need to be aggressive because, like I said, their attacks are very unpredictable, so just kind of run up and just melee them. Next, the Immolator. These flamey turds, they are very frustrating, especially as a newcomer, because you don't really understand how to kill them. But here's the trick. You cannot penetrate their skin, or else they explode instantly and then set everything on fire around them, and then if they go and attack you, they will set you on fire. So how you get past this is, again, with those knuckle braces that I mentioned earlier. If you bring those, it's 3 heavy strikes to kill it, but if you don't, it is 4 heavy strikes with the butt end of your weapon. But again, avoid those guys if you can at all costs, because they are loud and they are aggressive. But okay, let's talk about the Hive now. These fly, buggy, annoying creatures, the best way to take them out is either sneak up on them with a melee weapon like your knife. It's just a 1 shot if you hit them in the head. And then otherwise, if they're in a spot where you can't really reach them with your knife, That's where I was talking about bringing fuses. You can throw them from a fairly good distance and take them out, but even the best thing is once you've used the fuses enough to get, I think it's 1000 XP with it, you then get the flare pistol, which is a fairly quiet and reliable way to take them down. Okay, the meatheads. These tanks, as we like to call them as we're playing this game, because, you know, Left 4 Dead has kind of ruined everything, but the meatheads, just avoid these things. Your guns do something like 80% less damage against them, so if you can, I guess, just melee them, but truthfully, just avoid them. Their slugs will poison you, and then that thing will chase you until the poison is gone, so just avoid them, avoid them, avoid them. Alright, and now the armored, they come in two forms, one form of which is not too bad. You just need to basically hit it 4 times with the heavy strike with your knife, or 4 times with your knuckle braces, or I think it's like 5 times with your heavy butt-end weapon. Ultimately, you just need to get the push on them, because if they do hit you, they hit you pretty hard. But ultimately, the worst form of these guys is the ones that are wrapped in barbed wire. If they strike you, they take almost half of your health and cause bleeding damage, and then keep attacking you. So the best way to take these guys out, again, is with those fuses or the flare pistol. Now the last bit of advice I'm going to give you guys is how to take down the bosses, because again, this is another intimidating task to take upon. I've been killed by the bosses many times, both in solo or in group play, it doesn't matter, they are tough. But here, this is the trick. If you can, you need to find a two-handed melee weapon that is within the area. This weapon right here, any of which, a pitchfork, a shovel, a warhammer, it doesn't matter what it is, grab it, and it does a lot of damage against these bosses. Shooting them, yes, you can do it, but it's very loud and wastes your ammo, and ultimately just doesn't do as much damage. The trick here is to run in, hit them once, maybe twice, or 3 times if you're feeling really brave, but ultimately once or twice, and then run back out, because it usually gets in a rage and after you stun it, and then you have a chance to escape without getting hit. Because when it hits you with a heavy strike, that's half your health gone, plus burning, bleeding, or poison depending on what you're fighting. And I guess once you finally unlock the sticky bomb, it doesn't take too long to get this thing unlocked, but this is an essential tool to taking down most of the bosses. The only one that you really can't is the assassin, because it kind of just vanishes and is so hard to stick with a sticky grenade. But all the other ones, if you can, that's 3/4 of its health gone. So essential, bring a sticky bomb and find a two-handed weapon to take down the bosses. Alright, well, I really hope this helps you get started in Hunt Showdown. This game is tough, but I promise you it is very rewarding. I'm already Prestige 2 and well into it. I was held back on Prestige 1 just so I could get one of those achievements, and I finally did. With that all to say, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and let me know if you have some more tips. And if you do, hit us up on our Discord or of course on our website. Alright, this week I'm playing the long-awaited sequel to Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil Village. Alright, so this week I got my hands on Resident Evil Village, and I'm gonna say right off the hop, you need to go and pick up this game right away. I absolutely loved this game. It is a perfect blend of both horror, suspense, puzzle solving, action. It's got everything all tied together to make, in my opinion, the best, if not one of the best, Resident Evil experiences to date. Starting things off, it takes place right after the events of Resident Evil 7. Without getting too much detail of that whole story, basically, you and your family have been rescued and are put in a village so that you are to be safe from what happened in Resident Evil 7. But that all to say, of course, all hell breaks loose and you are separated from your family. And kind of like a lot of other games, you're basically crashed on the side of a highway. It's dark, you don't know what's happening, and you slowly creep your way into this village and find out, of course, that something terrible has gone wrong here. So upon entering the village, you're trying to find your daughter who is separated from you in the crash. And through unsolving some of the mystery that's happening within the village, you encounter warlords and the ultimate Lady Miranda. Now, in my opinion, this game has some of the most iconic characters. Maybe their cast time was a little less than I would have liked, but still, these characters, all of them, very unique and just blend perfectly to make this very creepy ongoing story.
Steal my property! Damn! Rest while you can!
The combat in this game, it just takes me back to the days of Resident Evil 4. My first real experience of Resident Evil was Resident Evil 4, and to have a game that is sort of like that, but in first person, not third person, it just adds all the more tension, and just the graphics in this game are incredible. Probably the best looking game to date on the Xbox Series X. And what I love about the combat is that the zombies, they kind of slowly approach you, and you have to just aim your gun and of course try to get those headshots, because that's how you take down these guys. And if you're just going for body shots, you're bound to run out of ammo. This game's about finding ammo, exploring, because if you don't, you will run out of ammo. Although, if you do, there is a shopkeeper introduced back into the Resident Evil series, much like Resident Evil 4. And in my opinion, the Duke is just, he's wicked. He's an awesome character with a menacing voice, and he just helps you out so much along the way, giving you upgrades for your weapons. You can buy new parts for your weapons. You can buy ammo. You can buy blueprints for different weapons and mines. There's all sorts of stuff in this game. I just can't get over the hype for it. Now, the audio in this game, I cannot stress to you enough the tension building that it brings. When you're in a dark, eerie cave that has blood all over the walls and hanging corpses, and then you have this orchestra and strings all playing and just building up, it's absolutely just, there's a lot of moments where I just was and just constantly jumping. This game, maybe to a lot of people, wasn't as scary as Resident Evil 7, but I found, especially for the first half, it was terrifying. And I'm not going to show it or even really spoil anything about this, but one of the creepiest and scariest moments I've ever experienced in a game was in Resident Evil 8. And you need to see that if you're into the spooky stuff. Okay, I could sit here and talk about how much more wonderful this game is to you, but I don't want to say anymore because it's just going to spoil something. So, if I'm going to score Resident Evil Village, what would I give it? Well, it's pretty obvious. This is actually a 10 out of 10. This game is amazing. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, horror experiences I have ever played. The story is incredible. The gameplay drives you forward. Everything is a masterpiece. 10 out of 10. A masterpiece that every horror fan must experience. Bringing Resident Evil back to its roots while also being innovative makes this game unlike any other.
The one who captured him.
Now, daughters. First, I must inform Mother Miranda. But later, well,
There will be enough for everyone. Budama.
Hey, wait.
Oh, be careful what you wish for, Ethan Winters.
The guys and I were live over on twitch.tv/the official ITG. We were playing Dead by Daylight. Yep, it's the Halloween season and the guys love the spookies. Me, not so much, but somehow I got convinced and sucked right into playing Dead by Daylight. But good news is, I was the bad guy, and it was actually a good time. Check it out.
Run.
Run this way, run this way.
Oh, Corey, not that way. I don't know what he's saying. I'm sorry, I needed to use you.
Bait.
Appreciate it.
Baited. Oh.
I give you a heads up.
Corey. Wow, well done. Well done, Corey.
Sneaky. We need to figure out how to heal.
Yeah.
We're all just like,
I think you gotta go next to each other and heal each other.
Yeah, you have to heal each other, and then it's like doing the Jenny thing.
Said it.
I had you! Dude, I was just swiping at you.
Oh, let's go.
Steve?
Yep. I'm looking round as well.
No. Run! No!
Nah.
Are you making sure this time, ain't you, Drew?
That's right. Get out of here.
Now that the Jenny's fixed.
Can I bust it?
Like 5 of them.
You gotta
No, you
fix
can't.
4 of them.
Oh, I think you just had to
4
fix
more.
one. You have to fix them all?
Yeah.
This is shitty.
It's so hard as survivors.
It's okay.
Ah,
You got this.
8 now. That's better.
There you go. Double team that one.
You should heal yourself.
Oh, only one can do it at a time? Is that? Oh.
Nope.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just stop doing it, so maybe I...
Keep lookout. Getting those lights back on.
man.
I gotta find another.
Is there generators one on each floor kind of thing?
I don't know. They're kind of.
Well, we got one on each floor so far.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just wandering around in circles.
Oh, I got one here, Corey.
It was kind of near the first one.
I got one too. I got one too.
It's funny watching Nate walk around with his lunchbox.
Not knowing what to...
Oh no! I didn't even see this one. Nice. That was a good. That was a good one there. Uh-oh. Give me a second here. I just gotta get out of that. Oh no! Wow. Okay.
Executed him.
There we go.
What happened to the hook thing?
Bypassed it
for the last one.
So I gotta. Did I have fun?
Oh, man.
That's gonna be 2 red circles out of 5.
I'm kidding. That was so sad.
All right, Nate.
The body hanging.
The last one there, buddy. That'll wrap up this week's episode. Thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you enjoyed this happy Halloween season. And until next week, we'll see you inside the game.
Not yet. Oh, don't do that.
How about now?
Don't do that. Oh, I'm not gonna make it. Oh, this is brutal. You see him fighting with this thing, man?
I was just trying to help.
I just keep getting stabbed by it.
How do I stop you? He didn't run.
What the?
Oh, he got me. Oh, save yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I tried.
Okay. Can I teabag you guys at all?
Hey, keep it family friendly, buddy.